Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. Today is going to be interesting, as of course today is the day of the official White House Crypto Summit. Now, we're likely going to get clarity on a lot of what has been spoken about previously. So, for example, on Sunday, Trump obviously tweeted that they were going to create a crypto strategic reserve. And he, first of all, said it was going to consist of XRP, ADA, and Solana. And then he said, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum and other valuable cryptocurrencies. We're likely going to get more revelation on all of that. And also who's actually attending that is going to be very telling. And some of the information that's given there or broadcast will, of course, cover in a lot of detail. But it's a huge event. I think retail is very scared that this is going to turn out to be a nothing burger like some of what's previously taken place. But I want to assure people that there's some really unbelievably bullish undertones to all of this. It honestly has never been a better time to be involved in the cryptocurrency space. This technology, and technologies take time to come to fruition. Let me show you Amazon. We like to do some interesting things on this channel. I'll show you Amazon, which of course is a stock that we're still expecting to get to that sort of $261 mark. We gave that at 130, obviously based on this inverse head and shoulders. But this was Amazon in the .com sort of boom and then bust. And it took around about 7 years to recover. Kind of similar to XRP, set up a similar structure. And then it ultimately went on a broad uptrend because the technology or the use of the technology being, of course, the internet in this case and revolutionizing e-commerce, blockchain is very much doing. And some of the blockchains are going to do this for the financial world, the social world, the government world, the AI world, the physical infrastructure world, in the same way that kind of Amazon did for e-commerce. So it's never been a better time, and we're at that kind of critical conjunction here where we now have the United States talking about opening up a crypto reserve and actually propelling this technology, and there's going to be this kind of global arms race that comes on the back end of this. So it's never been a better time to be involved, despite some of kind of retail's fears in regards to short-term volatility on the back end of the White House Crypto Summit. But the bullish undertones are truly there, and fundamentally there's a beautiful picture being painted for the cryptocurrency space, and of course technically, which we'll talk about towards the end. We think 2025 is going to be a spectacular year. And this could be one of the fundamental trajectories that kick it all off. We'll certainly see it set in motion. But today's not just a volatile day because of course, that taking place. And we'll look at the fact that Trump signed an executive order yesterday. We'll look at him actually signing this and what David Sachs had to say. We'll also look at some comments from David Sachs in regards to this. And the retweet that he did in regard to Eleanor Tourette's sort of scope on everything. Certainly, he signed a Bitcoin strategic reserve, but he didn't mention the altcoins that he had mentioned on Sunday. Ellen has a take on this, and of course, David Sachs retweeted this saying accurate. But today is going to be a volatile day, not just because of that. Obviously, it's going to be a volatile day because of all the economic data. By the time you're watching this, non-farm payroll is probably out. Now, non-farm payroll is a barometer for the economy. Strong job market, lots of jobs out of the economy, strong economy, and vice versa. And also unemployment rate. And there's a correlation between unemployment, which might get skewed in this world of AI that we're moving towards. And that's going to be very interesting to see how that affects things. But historically, unemployment, when it rises, stock market does the opposite. Unemployment at low, stock market at high, vice versa. So this is key economic data. We've seen a worsening in economic data. I think this has been allowed to happen so that there's the kind of room for the cutting that the Federal Reserve and that the government's likely going to induce, and the spending that they ultimately want and need, with $7 trillion worth of debt being refinanced this year alone. And we've spoke about that quite a lot this week. But you have obviously the non-farm payroll numbers, unemployment numbers, and then look at all the speakers you've got. You've got Bowman, you've got Williams, you've got Kugler, and of course you've got Fed Powell and Trump speaking. So expect some volatility. We don't really know what's going to happen on any one particular day. What we do is specialize in how markets move cyclically. We break them down into 4 phases and following basically trends. And Bitcoin is very clearly in an uptrend. We've got lots of technical patterns giving us confluence, and we expect to see, just like we had lower down targets that all got met, these sort of higher up targets get hit. And I think there's confluence across the board when you look at the total cryptocurrency market cap. Structurally, it looks great. Total 2, total 3, others. You can go to ETPs that all look good. ARK, probably the lowest hanging of them. But still, this could just be a retest of the neckline. And then, whichever way you look technically at the space, it's a bullish one. Macroeconomically, we think that dollar 2017 scenario plays out. And also, I think there's a great fundamental sort of undertone which is kind of being revealed to us in regards to what's taking place. And we're going to get clarity on that today in regards to the White House summit. This is from David Sachs. Just a few moments ago, President Trump signed an executive order to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the federal government that was forfeited as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. This means it will not cost taxpayers a dime. Ooh. So really what they're saying here, let me read and I'll give you my take, because this is a revelation to many of you, I'm sure. And this is an insight in regards to how they're going to do this. So it is estimated that the US government owns about 200,000 Bitcoin. However, there has never been a complete audit. What a surprise when it comes to government, by the way. The executive order directs a full accounting of the federal government's digital asset holdings. The US will not sell any Bitcoin deposited into the reserve. It will be kept as a store of value. The reserve is like a digital Fort Knox. Hopefully not, because we've still got to see the audit of that. I think last time that was audited, I was listening to Elon and Joe Rogan's podcast. Or Joe Rogan's podcast with Elon Musk, and really good one. His most recent one, I think, came out about 3 days ago. It's interesting to find out all the things that they've been finding out in regards to what government money goes on. Here in the UK, I'm sure it's probably worse in regards to percentages that is spent on just insane things. Anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. For cryptocurrencies often called digital gold, Michael Saylor said it's a better gold, actually, in some ways, which is very... not Michael Saylor, Peter Schiff, very interestingly. Full circle there, really. He's probably got his hands or side invested. So premature sales of Bitcoin have already cost the US taxpayer over $17 billion in lost value. Now the federal government will have a strategy to maximize the value of their holdings. I'll talk about altcoins and actually why I think there is absolutely the merit to buy them. And I was kind of in a bit of a grey area, but when you look at, like I say, the waste of government money, I think it's better spent on, some of the insane animal trials that they do, that just make no sense to anybody. And that's just one element of unbelievable insanity that government spending goes on. A lot of it not on America and America for America, which is what I think people voted for, but that money's better spent on buying these altcoins that I think are going to play a role massively in tomorrow's future world. That's an interesting take. So he goes on to say this: the Secretary of the Treasury and Commerce are authorized to deploy budget-neutral strategies for acquiring additional Bitcoin, interesting, provided that those strategies have no incremental cost on the American taxpayer. So they're kind of saying we're not going to actually add this as an expense. So they're going to have to come up with other ways of doing so. I'm sure Michael Saylor has a few. In addition, the executive order established as the US digital asset stockpile consisted of digital assets other than Bitcoin forfeited in criminal or civil prosecutions. Okay. The government will not acquire additional assets for the stockpile beyond those obtained through forfeiture proceedings. Oof, this isn't what people wanted. The government will not acquire additional assets. Okay, we've read that. So the purpose of the stockpile is responsible stewardship of the government's digital assets under the Treasury Department. Promises made, promises kept. Kind of. Perhaps. Not really sure that's what people had in mind. President Trump promised to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve and digital asset stockpile. Those promises have been kept. The executive order underscores President Trump's commitment to making the US the crypto capital of the world. We'll see what happens tonight. I want to thank President Trump and leadership for the vision. Yeah. So this is not what people wanted, I'm afraid. And the market's actually handling this quite well, considering. So essentially what they're saying is an overview. So I actually think they should add it as an expenditure. And I'll tell you why, because they waste far more money, and I think this is far better spent money that actually might garner a return and isn't wasted money, unlike what the government do a hell of a lot of. it's actually funny to watch them call out what the government actually spend money on and some of the insanity of it. Government also spend money on some really great things, by the way, but there's a lot of badness that needs to be cleared up. And that's what's taking place in the US. I can only pray that it happens here in the UK. I personally think because we've swung that far to the left, and you're seeing this globally, it will come so much farther to the right, and you're going to see an interesting world in the next few years. But this is not what people wanted. Essentially, they're saying they're not going to actually buy any more Bitcoin other than what they've acquired through criminal forfeiture, which is interesting. And they talk about over the past decade, and he's kind of highlighting the point here in regards to actually being accountable with the Bitcoin. This is David Sachs retweeting this saying accurate. This is Eleanor Tourette's deep dive. So real Donald Trump executive order calls for two separate things: a strategic reserve and a stockpile. The strategic reserve will contain only BTC, the digital asset with the most store of value. It is a store of value. That narrative was hijacked, or it became that after the peer-to-peer narrative was hijacked. Using the 200,000 or so tokens already in the government's possession that have been seized over the years through criminal and civil forfeiture. Sachs says Besant and Lutnick have also been given authorization to explore means of acquiring more Bitcoin through avenues that will not cost the taxpayer. So, grants and things like this, or donations, whatever. I think that might be possible. And I think you'll see, just like people sending like meme coins to Vitalik's wallet to try and give them credibility, perhaps that sort of a play take place. The executive order also mandated a full audit of digital asset currently in the government's possessions. The other is a digital asset stockpile containing assets other than Bitcoin, presumably XRP, ADA, Ethereum, and Solana, as announced by the president last weekend, and we'll hopefully get more clarity on that and potentially others. The key difference between the reserve and the stockpile is that the government will not actively look for ways to purchase more of the assets contained in the stockpile. It will explore using government funds if they can find budget-neutral ways of doing that on buying Bitcoin. Sachs says the promise of the stockpile is responsible stewardship of government assets. So this is not what people wanted at all, I don't think. However, this could have been a narrative. It's still bullish as hell, by the way. It's just not the government going out and buying Bitcoin or what Michael Saylor put forward. This, of course, is Trump signing the executive order last night. We'll play this and then we'll proceed with the video.
Today we're signing, and this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value, because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in fully?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And I made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Interesting. Yeah, not quite what people were expecting. However, c'est la vie. There's a million and one reasons to be bullish on the crypto space. That was one of them. There's a lot more. Certainly technically, you know, how we derive our opinion on whether something's going to go up or not is purely technically. And I think Bitcoin looks good. I don't envision, although there is a little bit of a shaky start to the stock market. Stock market's getting hit quite hard at the moment. President Trump blaming this on the globalists and saying they're behind the stock market sell-off, probably because he's trying to destroy bureaucracy. That's just my own take, by the way. I know a lot of you agree, but the globalists are also the central banking cartel, very much behind the sort of impoverishment in your lives. And I think, you know, people are sort of waking up to that now. Yeah, Bitcoin to me doesn't look too bad at all here. We'll see what takes place today. I think people are worried about a kind of crash today, but when everyone's worried about something, often the opposite takes place. I don't think you're going to get a crash. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of data we get. Actually, bad data may transmute into good data or good results in regards to the markets due to what that means for monetary policy. Remember, monetary policy is exceptionally tight at the moment with interest rates still at 4+%, and QT still taking place. And there's going to be a reversion in that. We ultimately have that broader plan for the dollar. Dollar very much going in the direction that we want it to. Where's my dollar chart? It's here somewhere. Here it is. I mean, look at this for a sell-off. This is doing exactly what we want. Why is the dollar doing this? I wonder. Well, it's because it knows what's coming. And this is doing exactly what we set out for it. First target met. Also, the 10-year yield's doing the same thing. Euro USD. Look at this. This made our target, by the way. We're not going to go too much into all that. But hang in there, guys. We'll see what unfolds tonight. We'll be reporting on it all for you guys, as always, tomorrow. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you all in the next one.